Hey folks, welcome to this video. I don't do this often, right? So I don't make videos that cover what happened for the rest of the week. This is me trying this for the very first time, and I'd love to hear your feedback on how the video went, or if you're looking for more of this. The reason why I'm creating this in the first place is because a lot of us are busy in a 9 to 5 job, and even if 9 to 5 we're busy in our lives and we don't really have time, to spend the entire week. So at least for me, this is day to day, right? So I want to know what's going on in AI. That's something that I want to do more actively. But for you, you maybe not, or you maybe don't have that time in order to keep a track of things that are going on in AI. So I'm starting this weekly thing where I will try to summarize as much as possible with respect to everything that everything at least majorly happened in AI. Also talk about some AI news, AI tools from this week, and obviously the major updates that went on. So let me know what you think. Anyway, so this week's biggest update, NVIDIA's GTC 2024 event from I think a couple of days back, somewhere early last week, and this kind of changed everything that we know about AI today. The biggest update and one of my favorite updates is the updates with respect to these small robots. Let me just go to that part of the video. So I'm here now, and let me play this.
Come on, you guys, let's wrap up. Let's go. 5 things. Where are you going? I sit right here. Don't be afraid. Come here, Green. Hurry up. What are you saying?
So this is something that NVIDIA is doing as a part of their Project Groot, which is a foundation model for humanoid robots and powered by something called the Jetson engine. This is huge, not because these robots look like Wall-E from Disney, but these are actually learning from humans based on the actions that human takes. So let me go to that part of the video. So let me play this part.
Is Project Groot. Osmo, a new compute orchestration service that coordinates workflows across systems for training and OVX systems for simulation. The Groot model will enable a robot to learn from a handful of...
So you can see this is the important part of the video where robot is trying to mimic what the human is doing.
...demonstrations so it can help with every...
First, it learns how to do it with the human's help. On the left side, you see teleoperated one. And then on the right side, it can automatically, then once it learns how to do something, it can automatically do it itself. You can see a robot here playing.
It's made possible with video technology that can understand humans from videos, train models in simulation, and ultimately deploy them directly to physical robot, connecting...
Pretty interesting project, right? So again, this wasn't the only thing that was announced. They also announced something called Blackwell chip, which is huge. Again, let me go to that part of the video. So as a part of the architecture or Blackwell chip, this is apparently a significant GPU advancement and has 8 billion transistors across the 2 chips that you see on the screen here. On the bottom here, you can see there is like a motherboard system of sorts, and then there are 2 chips on this. Now these chips are specifically designed for generative AI based processing. One of the competitors that we saw earlier last month was something called Grok, which was again a chip that was made for generative AI based processing, and this NVIDIA seems to have entered the race now. They're late for some reason. Now the reason why they're building the chip, by the way, in the first place is because the GPUs or CPUs that we use were primarily made for image-based processing, right? So when I say image-based processing, you would typically use a G to play video game, and a video game is basically a combination of different frames coming together. So when you try to run large language models on these GPUs, while they do the job of running these models, they're not as efficient because they are looking at both the hardware component and the soft component and trying to make both of these work together. Now these specialized chips that are being launched now will specifically focus on the software component, which is the LLMs, and it will isolate itself from the hardware bit, which will make the chip itself more efficient. NVIDIA also announced a generative AI microservices platform that will be used to deploy these large language models. So it seems that what they are trying to do is build the hardware in order to support larger workflows. By the way, the chip itself that you see will increase the potential of an LLM by almost 30x, and it will also increase the cost. But what they're looking at right now is to make the whole training or make the whole processing side of generative AI way more efficient, because right now you're using TPUs, GPUs, and all of that is not efficient because, like I explained, they focus on both hardware and software, and as far as AI is concerned, it only needs to work on the software side of things in most scenarios, right? At least the large language models. So a lot of companies will now start to enter the race in order to build these chips chips specifically for generative AI. They also announced a bunch of partnerships around with companies like Microsoft and so on. Let me see if I can find the slide. So you can see Oracle, NVIDIA, Google and NVIDIA. So they're working with a bunch of companies now for one or the other thing, primarily around generative AI based innovations and adoptions for enterprise projects. So broadly, all of these major updates were announced in the GTC 2024 event. But again, like I said, the entire event was focused on generative AI and building more efficient and optimized system in order to process AI models. Now, by the way, the Blackwell architecture will also be available as, I think, a bunch of servers. So in scenarios where you want to host it on their cloud, just like you do today on Azure and other platforms, you will be able to also host your applications on their platform, at least the LLM applications, which will be way more efficient and faster. So again, this was the major one. Let's now talk about the next big thing that happened last week. So without a question, the next big thing was OpenInterpreter Lite 01 basically turns your everyday computer into a personal assistant. Now I tried setting this up locally inside of my laptop and it was absolutely mind-blowing. Let me show you some part of the video that the founder himself has recorded.
Years, humanity has imagined a computer that's as easy to interact with as a person. ChatGPT introduced the world to this technology and became the fastest growing consumer application of all time. Now, corporations around the world have started building closed source, artificially intelligent devices. 6 weeks ago, we realized there was an opportunity to build an open source foundation, this next generation of computers.
I'm going to skip to the main part.
The first open source language model computer. When's the next sunny day?
One moment. Next sunny day is on March 9th.
Great. Am I doing anything on that day?
Let me check your calendar. You have no of schedule for March.
So, because the O1 is operating my personal computer.
So to give you an essence of what is going on here, the person has a device that can take in voice commands and is connected to Wi-Fi, right? And the laptop itself or the server itself that is running this LLM or open source computer is also connected to Wi-Fi. Now, when a user is saying some voice command on the cloud to that computer or the server, the computer is able to work like a human and do things for them. Let's watch one more example to give you clear understanding.
Home. I didn't need to set up my calendar on that day.
Yes, you have several options. Option 1, Bad Bunny will be performing at the Climate Pledge Arena.
That's perfect. Can you add that to my calendar and then copy and paste a link to the ticket into the calendar event? And then actually, if you could text Paige the link and say something like, hey, do you want to go to this?
So you notice how it's not just going to, run things, but it can also open relevant apps. So it's right now opening an app and texting someone called Paige to see if they want to go to this event.
Done. The concert is on your calendar and Paige has been texted.
So very interesting, and I tried setting this up locally. There's an entire video on this. YouTube ads seem to have gotten longer. Let me just go to a part where I'm running some commands.
I hope you guys are able to try it out locally as well.
Let me know.
So I'm based in,
Please provide more information.
and unfortunately I don't think it has
So here what I'm trying to do is send it an instruction to give me the nearest airport to my location.
the location access, so it's not getting it cut.
Or find the nearest airport for you.
And then it's going to ask me a follow-up question with respect to where I live and then automatically look up. So how this is currently working is that the software itself, after it's set up and it's very easy to set up, you can press the space bar and say things to the software, just like you would do on a device by pressing the button there. And then it will automatically go ahead and then use your GPT-4 API key and generate the response in real time. It can also directly execute tasks inside of your Mac. So you can see computer browser does search. It's going to open the browser, do the search, and based on whatever it gets, it's going to write back. So it's a very interesting piece of software, and I'd definitely recommend, if you've not tried this, one of the things that you should try. One of the great things that have happened to the open source community. Should definitely give it a shot.
Thing done with my brain. If y'all can see the cursor moving around the screen, that's All me, y'all.
The next big thing that happened this week was the Neuralink live stream. Now, this is not directly related to AI, but in some way or the other is related to AI because, right, some sort of artificial intelligence is running whatever is going inside of the chip itself, right? So what basically happened is that this guy, his name is Noland, I think, he went through the surgery. He was the first patient who had Neuralink inserted inside of his brain, and this happened in January. Unfortunately, this guy had gone through, I think, somewhere 8 years ago, this guy had an incident where he was a part of the diving accident and he became paralyzed shoulder down, right? So he can feel nothing from this point, which obviously disabled him in a way when it comes to using things like laptop and so on, or any sort of equipment for that matter, right? What this guy says that Neuralink has turned him to, or given him the powers of the Force from Star Wars, and the experience itself is so cool. So let's look at some part of how he is, without any further assistance, actually controlling the laptop that you see on the screen now, and is also able to play games like Civilization 4 and chess, which he himself said is something that he wanted to do for a very, very long time.
With my brain, if y'all can see the cursor moving around the screen, that's all me, y'all.
Now note that the video quality is just this, so apparently it was a live stream and this is how it looks, but you can, if you look closely, you will see a cursor moving around here. Let me play this again.
It's pretty cool, huh?
Actually, can you pause the song just for the
So the guy that you hear on the background is the Tesla engineer who is with him and doing this live stream. So this was one of the major updates, and this came after the EU regulations kicked in last week itself. As a part of the regulation, all of these things will become very, very hard to do in the future, especially in Europe, because the regulations have 4 set of risks. So there is unacceptable risk, high risk, normal risk, and no risk. For a high and unacceptable is you cannot even deploy without any sort of permission. But for the high risk, there will be a 4-step process where you have to apply, and if they approve, then is when you can actually take this to public. Before that, you can't do this. So even the applications that are currently deployed in the EU will need to go through that process before they can, if they can continue to work on the projects they're building on inside of Europe or for European customers. And this was a unanimous vote, meaning almost all the folks in the European Union approve of this. One more major update that happened this week is the rumors. So if I go to GPT-5, you can see a bunch of these websites are now talking about GPT-5 going out. Now this is not confirmed, right? This is a very, very high level rumor and comes after someone from their own OpenAI team leaked the fact that they are now giving demos to corporate customers with respect to GPT-5, and their customers have quoted that this is materially better than GPT-4. The other thing that also happened is Sam was on Lex's podcast. He went in for the second time, by the way, and he spoke about a bunch of things, right? Beyond, he kind of hinted at GPT-5 and he's excited for the potential. While he did not clarify the direct dates, he did say that it's very, very exciting. And the other source that also kind of gives a hint around of this with respect to why this might be coming is because this is what Sam said in one of the interviews, that GPT-4 kind of sucks. It probably already has access to GPT-5 at this point. So that's probably why I said it, but this is also one of the reasons why people are anticipating the release date of GPT-5 may be close or closer than we expect. Most people say it will be released over the summer, but there is no clear confirmation or clear guidelines. Few of the other things that Sam also said in the Lex podcast is that as they continue to build or go towards AGI, he mentioned that they will need regulations and guardrails in place because newer opportunities will be created and some of the opportunities will be lost as you bring in these advancements, right? And having proper guidelines or guardrails will definitely help to ensure that the impact on humanity is not very, very high. He also said that compute is going to be the currency of the future because the more sophisticated these kind of AI models now become, the harder it becomes or expensive it becomes to run these models. And having optimized things like what NVIDIA is working towards, what Grok is working towards, not GROK but GROQ, which is like a specialized computing chip for generative AI LLMs, will only make it better. So, and I'm kind of surprised that there is no specialized chip for LLMs, or before this at least there was no chip, and we were spending bunch of money not just to train these models but also run these models locally, right? So excited now that they're finally working on it, because while newer things in AI is cool, it's going to come with its own problems when it comes to, say, the consumption of power, the consumption of compute and so on. There is also a state in Arizona is now impacted because of this. So if you look up Zona water crisis, AI, right? You will notice that Microsoft data centers are consuming around 56 million gallons of drinking water annually, right? So all of these problems is what we are currently facing because we don't have a place to run these models. We are focused too much on running these models and building these models, but there's no clear focus on making optimized version and cleaner version of these models such that the impact that or the unintended impact we are causing to the people who are maybe not even using these tools, right, can be minimized. So again, no clear date on when this goes out or when GPT-5 goes out, but there is a speculation with respect to this is going to happen very, very soon. So one more thing, and especially if you're from India, a couple of weeks back, the Indian IT Ministry announced a regulation saying that every new model that goes through every new model that before it's released to the public needs to go through an approval process with the IT Ministry. And that was the first actual regulation or advisory that had come out of the Indian government or the IT department. But they last week, I think itself, they seems to have taken a back step and said that was just an advisory and that it's going to just ensure that the models are not released before they are tested. But there is no question that they're working towards regulation, given that they've invested and had gotten an approval for 10,000 crore AI project in India with a clear goal to build or position India as the leader in AI. So that's also something that they are working on in the back end. And again, this happened because one of the posts when someone was using Gemini, Google's Gemini, it called the Indian Prime Minister a fascist, and post that all of these regulations came. And it's very unfortunate for Google because it's going through a lot of problems even before it became even before it's kind of entering the race to become the best LLM out there. They're trying very hard. It is just not working out very, very well for Google right now. As for the news, and before I go to the news, by the way, the NVIDIA chip that I just talked about earlier in the video is going to cost you $30,000. So it's very, very expensive and not available. While it speeds up the processing almost 30 times, it's not cheap. It's going to be very expensive. Okay, getting to the AI news, it seems that Apple is in talks, Google, to power Gemini inside of their iPhone. And the reason why this is happening is because Google is one of the companies that has launched a Gemini Nano version, which is a mobile version of these large language models. And I don't think there's a direct competition here with respect to even OpenAI or Mistral or any other company right now. So it seems like it's standing tall on the mobile side of things. And while the smartphones like Pixel 8 and Galaxy S versions, I think the latest versions have already gotten Gemini. iPhone is now also going to work with them in order to integrate Gemini inside of the iPhones. Talking about Apple, I think they bought a new startup called Darwin AI, which is an AI startup. That's exactly why we're talking about this. You can see it bought the Canadian AI startup as it races to add features. I don't know what they specifically do. So let's say Darwin AI. It seems like it's a visual quality inspection company, so it's probably more on the lines of manufacturing based AI analysis and not directly connected to generative AI. They also launched, and again I'm talking about Apple, their own MM1 AI model. So let's also look that up. Funny how these news sites say sleeping giant is. I don't know why Apple will also focus on generative AI right now, because it's not an AI company, it's a tech company, right? It builds hardware devices. So if anything, it should be racing to integrate these features inside of their smartphones, which is it's already doing using Google, right? I don't understand why these news articles are saying that the giant is trying to wake up. Apple is not directly competing with Google or Microsoft, not just for the hardware standpoint, right? Hardware software is still different story, but it's also not competing directly with them for customers. I mean, you look at the Apple customers, they are like premium customers, and look at the Google or Microsoft customers, they may be like us, average buyers, right? So I don't understand why they're saying that it's the sleeping giant is waking up. But anyways, so again, like I said, it's rumored. I don't think it's directly launched, but it's a text to text and image model and seems to be a multimodal model. I think broadly that's all we need to talk about when it comes to the news itself. Again, like I told you, my favorite thing that came out this week was the OpenInterpreter, and if you haven't tried it out, try it out. It's very, very good. Let's look at some of the tools that were launched on Product Hunt this week. The first one is Chaturji, which seems to be similar to the Perplexity platform, and it allows access to the world's best AIs where you can write. So it seems like a platform that kind of brings together the bunch of the models like Claude 3, Gemini Pro and GPT-4. and you can also do this on Perplexity, by the way. And it has a similar interface just like ChatGPT. It's almost like a combination of ChatGPT and then some sort of prompt library to, chat with the model. So it's straightforward, a version of ChatGPT where you have the independence to select which models you want to use. Then there is a Dirupt, which apparently seems like it can allow you to build agents in order to take video interviews, customer support calls, sales calls, and it kind of builds your own, it seems, digital avatar in order to do this, right? So this one seems pretty cool. Probably might try out. They also have their own API. So this one seems like a cool release. The other one is this butternut.ai and allows you to bring your website ideas to life. So again, this is not something new. A bunch of different products are also doing this, but I just wanted to talk about some of the cool AI products that were launched on Product Hunt. But yeah, I think that's all that's going to be for on the video. I don't know if you like this and if you stuck around the end for the video, but if you did, let me know how you feel about this, right? Should I do more of this? Should I not do more of this? I will probably get to know that looking at the number of views, but if there is any direct feedback, let me know. Thank you so much, guys, and have a good one.